I'm Ryan. I work in marketing for Ditto, and I'm here with Joaquin. And he's going to explain a little bit about the data browser. So thank you so much, Joaquin, for talking with me today.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah, so let's just jump right into it. First thing, I just want to get a little background on this new data browser. So what have you been working on, and what are you releasing?
Yeah, sure. So basically, I've been focused on pushing the data browser out. Data browser is a tool that we're releasing as part of the Ditto toolkit, where we'll basically have this Electron-based application that will allow you to, like the name says itself, browse the data within any of your Ditto apps. So when you create a Ditto app, if you want to see, the collections that you've been working on, the data that you've been creating, you can use the data browser to establish a connection to your apps and browse the data that's inside of it.
Okay, wow, sounds like a good feature. So what do you think it's going to be used for most when it comes out?
I think that as a developer myself, I commonly use this sort of tools to do a lot of debugging during the development process to make sure that the data looks right. That in this case, our developers will be creating apps that need to sync and communicate with each other and have data move from one end to the other. So I think it will be good to use the data browser to be able to see that that data really is syncing, that it really is there, that it has the form and shape that they've given it within their apps, and just to make sure that everything is working right. I can imagine any developer just basically creating an app, defining their data model, establishing a set of test data maybe while they're developing at the start, and just looking at that data and making sure that all fields are there, and that basically everything looks right, just like you use like any other tool for browsing a database.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, it sounds like it will make things a lot simpler for developers. But you have a demo for us today?
Yeah, sure. So let me just share my screen. Okay, so this is the initial screen that we see on the data browser. As you can see, it looks very similar to many other tools where you basically need to establish and configure a connection to an, in this case, it's an application or to a data store, however you want to consider it. So basically here we have some pre-established connections. You can create a new one if you like. We'll take this one, which already has some data for us to show. You basically configure what type of application you're connecting to, development or production. Basically, the difference between each being that the development applications won't have any encryption nor data, security attached to them, and production will require you to attach a certificate for encryption. Then you can configure a set of parameters. You need to provide your access license. And in this case, we have a cloud connection being set up over here where our application is syncing with a Ditto Cloud cluster. We can do that either with WebSockets or with a TCP connection. So that being said, if we click Save and Connect, we then enter this data view mode, where basically we can see the data within each of our collections. Our collections are showed here on the left-hand side, and the data within each of them is shown here on the right side of the screen. So basically, as you can see here, there is 2 view modes for the data. We can see it in a regular table mode or a tree view. And basically, as you can see here, we can explore the data within those collections. If we have any collection with more data, we can just browse through it. We can filter up here. Within that data, we can, just like any other data browser, we can delete documents as well, and so on. Here in the bottom left-hand corner, we also see the status of the connection to the cloud. So in this case, as I mentioned before, we're connected to a cloud cluster, and the data that we're seeing on screen is coming from there. But as you probably know, Ditto isn't only technology that allows you to sync with the cloud, but we also allow peer-to-peer syncing. That is, we could have cut off our connection to the cloud, and if we had a device with a Ditto store, well, sitting close to our data browser, through these transports that we have over here that are supported by Ditto, these being Bluetooth, local network, or AWDL, we could be syncing this same set of data from an iPad, an iPhone, or whichever device we chose to have the data on. So as you can see, the data browser allows us to view the data not only on these cloud connections, but also on peer-to-peer sync. Finally, I also want to show you here the log viewer. Here we have a view of the logs that are being thrown out by our SDK. So we can increase the level of verbosity on those logs and basically see what's going on internally inside our Ditto store. So the idea is that this will give us a better insight of basically the behavior of the Ditto SDK. I haven't mentioned that, and I suppose it's important to say at this point that basically the data browser is just like another Ditto tool that is just using the same SDK that we are releasing out to our customers. So anyone could go and build this basically just like we have, right? The idea is to make this easier for everyone else to sort of have a series of tools to help them get started fast. But we're basically using the SDK with the same API and exactly the same set of functions and API that our SDK exposes to everyone else. So that's what we get to see here as the result of our logging API exposed in the Ditto SDK and the JavaScript SDK. So Ryan, I believe that's a good and quick demo of the data browser.
Yeah, so when is this releasing?
Yeah, so we're planning to release this in the upcoming days. There's plenty of new features that we'd love to include in the data browser, but we believe that the basic set of features to allow any developer to get started and start building out their apps and be able to see their data and so on are already available on the data browser. So it won't be long before it's out.
Yeah, so just like you said, this is just an initial release with the basic features, but I'm sure you have something you're looking forward to releasing in the future as well in terms of the data browser, more features in the future.
Yeah, for sure. There's plenty of stuff that we've spoken about inside the team. It's not only been me developing this, there's also other people behind that have been super helpful and we've got plenty of ideas and plenty of stuff that we want to throw ourselves into as soon as we can. The first of them being that, well, alongside the data browser, we're also working on other web tools. So one of the main things that we want to focus on is making the integration between both the data browser and all of these web tools as good as we can make it, so that any of like a simple example would be the logs that we see over here, being able to like export these logs and upload them over to the web tools that we're working on, and being able to actually provide much more insight to the user stories that those tools that we're working on for those tools is something that we really want to do. Another thing that's also on our mind, and that is not only really a web effort or an effort that's part of the web team, but it's also something that the whole Ditto team has been focusing on, is that well, basically here on the left-hand corner here, you can see that we're just showing a very simple status to, showing how the connection is to the cloud and whether it's connected or not. But the idea is that the SDK in the future should support more information about the connections that have been established inside the network. So being able to show a much more richer map of how each of the peers inside of the network are connected to each other is also something that we want to do. And that would be something that we add to the data browser to give the user a view of all the devices in the network and how they're syncing and interacting with each other.
Amazing. Wow. And this is for everyone, right? Anyone who uses Ditto can have access to this?
Yeah, that's right. So we'll be releasing this initially on our website, basically as an a Mac OS installer. Although we will be supporting other platforms as well, like Windows and Linux. And the idea is that at the end, this will end up in the App Store, just like any other tool that anyone can download and use.
Awesome. Wow. Well, I thank you so much for taking the time to explain the new data browser. If there's anything else to add, closing comments, anything?
No, my pleasure. And we're apart from releasing it, we're also, trying and looking forward to gather as much feedback as we can from developers. We'll also, that's another of the features that will come in, is that we're planning to add a form to get user feedback on the tool and try to improve it as much as we can, right? So in the future, through the tool itself, you'll be able to provide us that feedback, but through any of the other Ditto channels, we'll have our ears wide open to try to make it better for everyone.
Awesome. Yes. Okay, so please stay tuned for the data browser. But of course, as you heard, there's many new features coming that we can integrate with, a lot of new stuff coming for Ditto customers. So it's a really exciting time.